Imagine being trapped inside a glass box for more than 1,000 days, watching strangers stare at you, children banging on the glass, people treating you like entertainment. Now imagine being smarter than all of them. That is how Remarkably Bright Creatures begins. And strangely enough, this emotional Netflix drama about grief, loneliness, and second chances is narrated by an octopus. But not just any octopus, a giant Pacific octopus named Marcellus. And trust me, what starts as a quirky little story about an old woman cleaning an aquarium slowly transforms into one of the most emotional and unexpected mysteries you'll see this year. The movie takes place in the quiet coastal town of Sowell Bay. Foggy mornings, cold ocean winds, tiny local shops, a place where everybody knows everybody, and where everyone seems to be hiding something. At the center of this story is Tova Sullivan, played by Sally Field. Tova is old, quiet, routine-driven. Every night, while the rest of the town sleeps, she cleans the local aquarium alone. And honestly, that aquarium feels less like a workplace and more like the only place where she can breathe. Because outside those walls, Tova's life is frozen in grief. Years ago, she lost her husband. But even worse, she lost her teenage son Eric under mysterious circumstances. His body was never properly found. The truth was never fully understood. And ever since then, Tova has emotionally disconnected from the world around her. She keeps people at a distance. She avoids emotional conversations. She lives inside memories she can't escape. But there's one creature she talks to every single night. Marcellus, the octopus. Now this is where the movie immediately becomes different, because Marcellus isn't just an animal in a tank. He narrates the story. And the way Alfred Molina voices him makes Marcellus sound wise, sarcastic, exhausted, and strangely human. He watches people constantly, and according to him, humans are confusing creatures. They lie, they gossip, they hurt each other, and somehow still expect happiness. But Tova interests him, because beneath her silence, he senses pain, real pain. And unlike humans, Marcellus notices everything. He notices how Tova pauses whenever she hears children laughing, how she avoids talking about her son, how loneliness follows her everywhere. One night, Marcellus attempts another escape from his tank. And yes, throughout the movie, he constantly tries escaping the aquarium, because despite his intelligence, he's still trapped. He squeezes through pipes, slides across floors, uses his tentacles like tools. But octopuses can only survive outside water for limited amounts of time, and during one escape attempt, he becomes tangled in electrical wires and nearly dies. That's when Tova finds him. Instead of panicking, she gently helps him back into the tank. And for Marcellus, that changes everything. Because in his eyes, humans are selfish creatures. But Tova, she saved him. And from that moment forward, the octopus quietly decides something. He's going to help her. But what happens next changes everything. Because another lost soul suddenly enters Sowell Bay, a young man named Cameron. Now, Cameron is basically the complete opposite of Tova. Messy, unstable, directionless. He lives in a dirty camper van. His music career is collapsing. His friends abandoned him. His van barely works. And underneath all his awkward humor, he's deeply lonely. But Cameron didn't come to Sowell Bay by accident. He's searching for someone. Someone connected to his past. Someone he believes owes him money and maybe answers. But before he can figure anything out, his van breaks down. He's stranded, completely broke, and desperate for work. That's when fate quietly pushes the story forward, because at the exact same time, Tova injures her ankle while cleaning the aquarium. She slips, falls hard, and management forces her to take time off. Reluctantly, they hire Cameron as her temporary replacement. And immediately, these two clash. Tova thinks Cameron is lazy. Cameron thinks Tova is impossible. She criticizes everything he does. How he cleans, how he talks, how he exists. Meanwhile, Cameron barely takes the job seriously. But Marcellus notices something strange. The pain inside Cameron looks exactly like the pain inside Tova. And no one expected what happens next, because little by little, these two broken strangers begin changing each other's lives. But neither of them realizes their connection runs far deeper than they could ever imagine. And the octopus already knows it. As the days pass, Cameron slowly becomes part of Tova's routine. At first, she only tolerates him. Barely. She constantly lectures him. Clean properly. Show up on time. Stop acting like a child. And honestly, Cameron acts like he's allergic to responsibility. But underneath the sarcasm and frustration, something unexpected starts happening. Tova begins caring about him. Not romantically. That's what makes this movie different. Their relationship slowly becomes something much deeper, something almost maternal. And Cameron desperately needs that. Because the truth is, his entire life has been unstable. He grew up abandoned. His mother struggled constantly. He never really knew his father. And ever since childhood, Cameron has carried this quiet belief that he doesn't belong anywhere, that he's disposable. Meanwhile, Tova sees pieces of her dead son in him, not literally, but emotionally. The same loneliness, the same lost expression, the same feeling of someone drifting through life without direction. And while all this happens, Marcellus watches from inside his tank like some underwater detective. The octopus notices details humans completely miss. Tiny reactions, hidden emotions, unspoken truths. And slowly, he begins piecing together a shocking possibility, one that could explain why Cameron feels strangely connected to Tova. But before the movie reveals that mystery, it builds something even more important: connection. For the first time in years, Tova starts opening herself up to people again. We meet her small knitting circle, her old friends, and Ethan, the local grocery store owner quietly in love with her. Ethan is gentle, patient, kind, the kind of man who approaches Tova carefully, like she's emotionally made of glass. But Tova keeps everyone distant, because grief has become her identity. If she lets go of pain, then what happens to the memory of her son? That fear controls her entire life. Meanwhile, Cameron also starts changing. He actually begins trying. He cleans properly, shows responsibility, fixes things around Tova's house. And for someone who spent his whole perfectly matches timelines connected to Eric's past. But the movie refuses to reveal the truth immediately. Instead, it slowly tightens the emotional tension. One night, Cameron performs at an open mic event, and honestly, it becomes one of the movie's most emotional scenes. Because for the first time, we see who Cameron really is beneath all the chaos. Not a loser, not a screw-up, just someone who spent his whole life searching for belonging. And Tova sees it too. For a brief moment, she smiles again, a real smile, something she hasn't done in years. But then, Marcellus starts dying, because giant Pacific octopuses don't live very long, and he knows his time is running out, which suddenly gives everything emotional urgency. The octopus becomes obsessed with bringing Tova and Cameron together before it's too late, and what he discovers next changes the entire story. As the film reaches its final act, everything becomes quieter, softer, more emotional. Tova finally allows herself to move forward, not past grief, because the movie smartly understands grief never completely disappears, but forward with it. That's the difference. She opens herself to family again, to friendship, to love, to life. Cameron finally stops drifting. For the first time ever, he belongs somewhere. Not because he solved all his problems overnight, but because someone finally chose him. And honestly, that's what makes the movie work emotionally. It's not really about an octopus. It's about lonely people learning they're still worthy of connection. Meanwhile, Marcellus grows weaker and weaker, and his final scenes are heartbreaking, because despite all his intelligence, despite understanding humans better than they understand themselves, that's why Remarkably Bright Creatures surprises so many people. Because underneath the quirky talking octopus movie premise is actually a deeply emotional story about grief, healing, and second chances. It's cozy, funny, heartbreaking, warm, and somehow it makes an octopus one of the wisest characters in the entire film. So if you enjoy emotional mystery dramas with powerful performances, beautiful atmosphere, and stories that quietly hit you harder than expected, this movie is absolutely worth watching. And if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to subscribe, because we've got more emotional movie breakdowns, hidden details, and ending explanations coming next. Until then, remember this: sometimes the people who save us aren't people at all.